Hey, it's Ben, and um, today I wanted to share a powerful meditation practice that I developed some years ago. Now, as I'm recording this video, I noticed that the cable internet connection is out. I mean, pay all this money every month, and was it the cable provider is unfortunately not that reliable. And so it's broadcasting through Wi-Fi, so hopefully the signal is coming through clearly. But anyway, um, so over the years, I just began to develop this whole system of meditation practices, and they all have various practical applications. And, for instance, being able to work through difficult or unpleasant emotions and being able to take those emotions and transform them in such a way that they become fuel for growth, and it actually facilitates their healing. But I think it was about 18 years ago, I was on a commuter train and headed back into New York City. And for the longest time, I'd been dealing with this chronic muscular tension especially in my neck, shoulders, and upper back, which could at times be very uncomfortable, even painful at times. And I remember many instances where, if I could, I would ask friends of mine to take their elbow and just push down into the muscles on my shoulders just to kind of help to release that tension. And I was going in for deep tissue body work, like usually at least once a month, often twice a month. And despite that, well, when I would do the body work, there would be that immediate release of tension, or just it would help to relieve the tension like momentarily, but it wouldn't stay very long. And it would tighten back up, and then I'd be feeling all that discomfort again. Maybe not quite as bad, but still, it wasn't getting near as much benefit as I could have. But so this one afternoon, I'm sitting on this commuter train, and fortunately, at that hour of the afternoon, there weren't too many other passengers on the train. So I had this bubble of space around me. And so I began to focus all my attention in the middle of the discomfort I was experiencing, again, in my neck, shoulders, and upper back. And so as I did so, I felt as though I had a layer of armor about an inch thick. Just I was just spread out across this area. But I had somewhere a 45-minute to an hour commute by train, and I just spent the whole time just focusing with my awareness centered or immersed in the depth of that discomfort I was experiencing. And what I noticed as I did so is that I began to experience some easing of that discomfort. And a lot of time has elapsed, so I don't remember everything as clearly as it happened that day. But I remember too that there were some emotions that were beginning to surface, and at some deep level, there was this sense of like the effort or the exertion on my part in my attempt to hold everything together, which sometimes happens when you're self-employed and it's up to you to make everything work. But so for the next 6 months or so, and at that time I was not as consistent, which I'll admit, to as consistent as I needed to be doing my the series of meditation practices that I developed. So I would say I was doing maybe at least 3, 4 days a week. Now I do just about every day. And but in any case, I would once again fully immerse my awareness, centering within the depth of whatever sensations or that discomfort of the tension in my neck, shoulders, and upper back. And so, month after month, as I kept doing this, I could feel much of the tension releasing. And about the end of that period, um, I saw this woman who'd been doing deep tissue body work, and she was shocked at the difference. And so in the middle of the session, she's like, "What are you doing here?" I mean, because normally I have to spend an hour or more working in this region of your neck and shoulders and upper back just to get it to open up. And after all that hard work, it tends to just contract and go back to where it was. And this time I've worked about 15 minutes. Everything's opened right up. It's where it should be. It's staying in place. And now we have all this additional time to go work on all the other parts of your body that we never really had time to address before. So I shared with her what I'd been doing, the meditation practice that I've been describing to you here. And again, a lot of time has passed, so I don't remember exactly how much later this was, but I had an old injury in the middle of my back that went all the way back to when I was in junior high school. We had a football coach who was in charge of our physical education class, and he had us working with some weight equipment that was more appropriate for like college football players. So there was this thing where you have these heavy bars on your shoulder and you're in this squat position, you have to push upwards. And so when I did that, vertebrae popped out in the middle of my back. And when that happened, I couldn't breathe momentarily. And I never said anything about it at the time. But for all these years, I'd carried that injury. And years later, an osteopathic physician, was doing an adjustment to me and is talking about how the vertebrae was not just out of alignment, but twisted around. It just, and there are other times early in my career when I was just beginning to work with people, and I did some exchanges with some chiropractors just so that more people would know the kind of work I was doing and to help me to get the word out to reach more people. And some of these chiropractors would be using as much force as they could up to a certain point, and then they would just stop because they were afraid of injuring me. But those vertebrae wouldn't adjust. I mean, it was just locked up because, again, it's like I had this plate of armor in the middle of my back. And so at times when I'd be doing meditation practice, a lot of the stress or tension that was breaking loose or that was being freed up in other parts of my body, it would run to the middle of my back and I could just feel it tensing up there. And so I thought, wow, let's focus my attention there and see what happens. And so that became the focal point of my awareness for a while. And at first I just felt a lot of discomfort. The tension actually intensified. But as I kept doing the practice, I began to feel a dissolving of that plate of armor. And I went through a number of stages. It was really interesting. how it played out. Um, I remember at one point, it was starting to feel as though the, the plate was beginning to break up, but on the inside, it just felt like this gelatinous layer of goo or something. It's like probably like a lot of the emotions are, that have been held in that part of my body for the longest time. But day after day, I kept focusing there, and I could feel more of that armor breaking up, and that I was beginning to process all of that residual of all that old stagnant emotion that was held in my body. And then there's at one point, I remember where I went back to the mountain to go on the Vision Quest. That's the training. Having trained with a traditional Native American doctor, a medicine man, part of the training involves going out to fast alone in the mountains for 4 days and nights with no food and no water. So I'd gone to the mountain to fast again. And when I came back down and I sat, I refocused my attention, as I'd been doing, in the middle of my back, and it felt like all that armor and that stagnation, that area that had cleaned out. And that's important, because if we're doing some kind of healing intervention, one of the challenges that I encounter working with people is that many people hold so much stagnation and emotional body armor that it prevents their body from being very responsive. And so the more that I can get people to actually do these practices that I teach and soften and dissolve the emotional body armor that accumulates, dissolve, process a lot of that stagnant emotion that's held in the body, and the more responsive an individual, that person's going to become to healing. So it's crucial. Even my own experience as well. I mean, there was a couple of years where I was running around the country. I was training with different hypnotists, and I wasn't really doing the meditation practice very much during that time. I remember I'd be sitting on the mountain during the Vision Quest, and there'd be all that immense power, but my body was just so locked up with all the stress, with all those emotions that I wasn't processing at the time. And so despite the fact that there was so much power there, that extraordinarily powerful presence, it couldn't do as much with me because my body was so frozen or so locked up with all that emotion that I wasn't processing. So this is a very important practice for many people to do. And the way to do it is basically like, say, if you notice at different times where you're holding chronic tension within your body, wherever you feel that tension in your body, just bring your full awareness to where you're feeling it. That tension can show up in a lot of places. Most common, I think one of the most frequent places that people experience a lot of that tension is actually in their neck and shoulders and upper back, as I did. But it can show up in lots of other places. I find that a lot of people are holding tension within their abdomen. Many instances, people are TMJ, they're grinding their teeth at night, and because of all the tension they're holding in their jaw. But what was interesting is I actually found that it was, instead of just having people focus on the tension within their jaw, I noticed I got a lot better response with people if I had them focus their awareness down within their abdomen. And as they put all their focus down within their abdomen, they begin to breathe very softly, very deeply into all the physical sensations or any emotions that might arise. Then as they did so, that precipitated a release within the tension that they were holding within their jaws. And so that helped to reduce the amount of uh, grinding of their teeth that they were doing at night. So anyway, describing this practice, bring your full awareness to the discomfort that you're experiencing in your body, wherever it is you feel it, and center your awareness within those physical sensations. You know, whether it's your neck, shoulders, upper back, down in your abdomen, maybe it could be constriction that you're feeling in your chest cavity, around your heart, wherever you feel it. Bring your full awareness. Breathe very softly, very deeply. Again, fully immersing your awareness in the depths of all those feelings and physical sensations, mainly associated with the tension you're feeling. And keep your awareness centered within that tension or discomfort. Again, breathing softly and deeply. I like to do practice for at least an hour a day. I know that sounds like a big, huge time commitment for a lot of people, but if you think of the amount of time that so many of us spend staring into the screens of our devices, scrolling on social media, following news updates, that could easily amount to a few hours a day, or watching television. So if we take some of that time and devote it to actually doing meditation practice that is going to help to facilitate healing and facilitate our growth and development, you know, we're going to be making much more productive use of our time. But in any case, I find that as I'm able to sit for longer periods of time, I'm able to go much deeper into that tension or discomfort. And as I do so, I can feel that muscular tension releasing. I'm at the time of filming this video in another transitional stage in terms of my own business. I've gone through a number of them, you know, in 2008 and 9 when the banksters crashed the economy and bottom fell out from under me and lots of other people. Around the same time, people were getting on smartphones and social media, and they became so much more distracted. And so there was this huge decrease. You know, work didn't come quite so easily as it used to. Phone wasn't ringing. I didn't have near as many people to work with. And currently, you know, because of, you know, since the COVID pandemic, I used to, before COVID, I was doing classes on a weekly basis. In many weeks, I did 2 classes. And that brought me a lot of work. And now I'm having to transition to bring my work online to reach a wider audience. And it's just a whole different reality from what it was pre-COVID. But anyway, being that my work is a bit slower, I didn't feel like I could justify spending the money to go do the body work. So I felt, again, a lot of tension accumulating in my back. And so just a few weeks ago, I'd be sitting doing practice and I would just focus on my awareness and that tension. And again, to my amazement, I could just feel that releasing. And my back did feel much more comfortable. But still, if at all possible, if you can do this practice and you combine it with interventions such as deep tissue body work, you're going to get a much greater benefit when you combine the practice, meditation I'm describing, and interventions, again, deep tissue body work. Or if you work with me individually, just a lot of people that I'll be working with that are doing sessions when they hold chronic tension in different parts of their body. And many people that I work with describe that, how they could feel all that tension just dissolving and being released. But when you combine the practice and the intervention, you're going to get much greater results and stuff. So why does this armoring form in our body anyway? For a lot of us, we've, probably the vast majority of us, we've never learned to work constructively with our own emotions. We don't, well, our life experiences and our subsequent cognitive and emotional responses need to go through a process in which they are thoroughly digested. But most people are not doing very well at that. And when these emotions, when these stresses are not being digested, they're not going to just go away. Our bodies will continue to hold on to them indefinitely. And so if we're holding on to all these emotions, hurt, fear, anger, sadness, grief, and we're not processing them, again, they're not going to go away. They're just going to accumulate within our body. And so it can accumulate in a number of different ways. I mean, these emotions are stored within the organs and the tissues of the body. If you do therapeutic interventions like colonics, for instance, where they irrigate your colon with water. I remember doing that and having a lot of fear and anxiety surface that I've been holding in my abdomen. Other emotions, like if you bring your awareness into your chest cavity where your heart and lungs are situated, and you focus deeply, over time, so you spend 30, 40 minutes, an hour or more a day, and you're focused deep within your chest cavity on physical sensations within the heart and lungs. You're going to have emotions surface, or any part of your body. And a lot of us are working jobs that where it's not something we really want to be doing. It's like we're there because we need to earn a living. We need to be able to support ourselves. And so when you're doing something that you really don't want to do, and it's it produces these not very pleasant emotional states, but you're dealing with a lot of the stress and frustration, maybe anxiety, but much of that emotion just gets pushed down. I mean, you're just busy, you're distracted, or you just don't want to feel it, so you push it out of your awareness. And again, that emotion is not going to disappear. It's going to be held in your body. And without making a concerted effort, it's going to remain trapped in your body. So the more you could take time and just check in, and especially when you find yourself experiencing chronic tension in some part of your body, and you bring your awareness to that part of your body, and fully immersing your awareness, breathing softly and deeply, and you keep following those sensations. As you keep doing that, especially if you're spending at least 30, 40 minutes or an hour or more, you keep breathing, that tension's going to begin to soften. It's going to dissolve. It's going to start to free up. It's going to start to release from your body. What will often happen too is that it's going to precipitate the emergence of the emotions that are trapped in those parts of your body. Once I started practicing consistently, there was a period of time where, I don't know, maybe for about a year or so, and it's like day after day, I'd be focusing. I could just feel the muscles all throughout my back just contracting. And it did feel very uncomfortable, but I would just continue to focus my full attention there, and I just breathe um, with all my attention, or at least most of it, on that discomfort. And and then at a certain point, I'd get up to go about my day. Um, I'd be, going out to work with people, and sometimes even during the middle of a session while I was working with someone, I could just feel that tension through my back. And it was quite uncomfortable at times, but then I would notice that some hours later, I could just feel it, just my back beginning to soften. But there are also times where I would get up and I would just feel these waves of anxiety. And it was a little disconcerting at first, but then I just realized that, wow, it's the fact that this emotion is coming out, it means it's giving me an opportunity to process it. And as I process these emotions, then I'm lightening the load. It's all this additional emotion that I'm not having to carry within my body. And so as I kept doing that, um, over the months, there is more and more of a softening. And my back got to a place where I didn't experience so much discomfort there. And there's a lot of freeing up. So as you do this, what's going to happen is that um, these layers of armoring, and the fact that you think about, you see, like when they cut a tree down, they have what's referred to as these concentric rings, and so each ring represents like a year, and and so there will be multiple rings depending on how many years this tree has been around. And so, as the days, the weeks, the months, years, decades pass by, and most of us, we're not really processing or digesting the stress. So what happens is it just accumulates layer by layer by layer. And when you see children and adolescents even, and often there's this lightness about them, there's this presence, this glow, this enthusiasm, this spark, this sense of connectedness. You see the light coming through their eyes. And as we get older, and all that stress, the hardships, the losses, the frustrations, the disappointments, the grief, from losses we've experienced, is that accumulates. We're taking these repeated hits, and we're not processing those emotions. It's like there's this layering effect as all these emotions just continue to build up. And so this deep, authentic core being that resides within us, it gets submerged, it gets buried deeper and deeper in there. And I see people at times, and just looking into their eyes, just feeling their presence. And it's like that deep core inner being is just so far removed. It's like they have so lost touch with that authentic inner core. And so one of the great benefits of working with this practice, in addition to the fact that when you're consistent, it's going to be helping to relieve your body of much of the stress that creates that chronic tension or muscular body armor, is that you're stripping away these layers of the armoring. As you're stripping away the layers, more of your authentic core, more of your authentic being is going to be able to emerge. Also, the more you work with this practice, it's going to help you to become more fully present within your body. So any place where you're holding this chronic tension or this muscular body armor, these are areas where you're, to varying degrees, you're dissociated from these parts of your body. But the more you do this practice, it's going to be helping you to become more present in more of your body. Instead of dissociated, you're going to become more associated. You're bringing more of you into the body. It's going to help you to reconnect with parts of yourself that, say, you're numbed out to, that you've disconnected from, that you've lost touch with. That's going to facilitate greater and greater degrees of integration. So this is all critically important. This is one of many versions of this whole system of meditation practices that I developed. All the practices that I developed, maybe it has something to do with me being a Virgo, but all the meditation practices that I developed have practical, real life applications. So they need to have some kind of, produce some kind of tangible, real world results for me, or for those people that I'm working with. So I've also written a chapter, by the way. I'll post this on the website when I get around to it. But I'll also post a link to the chapter on YouTube in Vimeo. So just click on the link if you're on YouTube or Vimeo listening to this video so that you can read the chapter, which goes into some other things that I probably forgot to mention in this video. But yeah, and if you'd like, I do teach this practice to people I work with. So if you would like to know more, you could always reach out to me by phone. It's the best way to get a hold of me is by phone. You can reach me through my Google Voice number, which is 332-333-5155. And so again, just to reiterate very quickly before I wrap up here, is that notice wherever you feel chronic tension within your body, bring your full awareness to wherever you feel the tension, center your awareness in the depth of that discomfort. You're not trying to send light to it. You're not trying to breathe the discomfort, send it out of your body or nothing. Just bring your awareness. Feel where the discomfort is in your body. Be as deeply immersed in it as you can. Breathe softly and deeply. Stay with those feelings and sensations. They may intensify. It's probably not going to go away in 5 minutes. It may take time. It could take days of repeated practice, weeks, months, but just keep doing it, because as you do so, especially when you're consistent with it, if you do it day by day, you're going to feel more of the tension dissolving, releasing. Oh, and you're probably going to have some emotions come up too. If those emotions come up, that's all the better. Center your awareness in those emotions when they do come up. Allow the emotions to be what they are. Breathe softly and deeply from the depth of those emotions. The more you center in the tension or center in the emotions that are the underlying cause of that tension, the emotions, the stress you're feeling, and you breathe with it, the more you process, the more you dissolve it, the more open, the more these parts of your body are going to open up. The more you're going to be inhabiting. You're going to be inhabiting more of your body, and definitely do make use of the most powerful therapeutic interventions. Deep tissue body work is especially good. You combine this with deep tissue body work, and it will do a whole lot more to break up and dissolve the tension. Much more effective, again, when you combine the interventions. Flotation tanks have an opportunity to do that. And that can also be a good intervention to combine, or work with me one-on-one doing the individual sessions. And that will also go even much deeper to dissolve a lot of the tension you're holding within your body. But yeah, practice becomes extraordinarily powerful when you give it sufficient time. I'd say at least 30 minutes, better yet, do an hour or even more at a time, and do it consistently. reach out to me if you have questions, and I'm very curious to hear about the results you're getting. So I'll leave you with that for now. Bye now.